You ever wonder if your personal beliefs could actually, change the planet? It's a much bigger question than you might think. In this explainer, we're going to connect those very dots between your personal worldview and the future of our planet. Let's get right into it.
All right, so let's just start with a really direct question for you. How do your values shape the planet? Because here's the thing, they absolutely do. Every single day, the way you see the world is driving the choices you make. We're talking everything from the food you buy to the leaders you support.
Okay, so here's our game plan. We're basically going on a journey, starting from the inside and working our way out. First up, we'll look at your personal perspective. Then we're going to zoom way out to see the massive operating system that is our planet. After that, we'll tackle the huge challenge of sustainability. And finally, we'll get to what might be the heart of it all, justice.
All right, first up, let's talk about your personal lens. This is really the starting point for everything. It's literally how you see the world, and that lens shapes how you approach every single environmental issue out there.
So there's a name for this, right? It's called an environmental value system, or EVS for short. The best way to think about it is like your own personal environmental compass. It's this mix of your values, your culture, your knowledge, and it's always there, pointing you in a certain direction, guiding pretty much all of your actions.
Okay, now this is where it gets really interesting. These worldviews, they exist on a spectrum. So on one end, you've got the ecocentric view. This is nature first always. Think about someone campaigning to protect a river, not for people, but because the river itself has a right to be healthy. Then, in the middle, you have the anthropocentric view. This one is all about managing the planet for us, like creating a national park for recreation and tourism. And all the way on the other end, you find the technocentric view. This is the belief that we can pretty much invent our way out of any problem. We're talking about putting all our faith in things like carbon capture technology or genetically modified crops. So take a second and think, where do you fall on this spectrum?
All right, so we've looked at the lens. Now, let's look at the machine itself. Because our planet isn't just a random collection of parts. No way. It's a system, a giant, incredibly interconnected operating system.
So what is a system? Well, it's really just a set of interacting parts. But think about it like this. Picture a coral reef. It's not just a bunch of pretty fish, right? It's this incredibly delicate dance between the coral, the algae, the water temperature, everything. And if you mess with just one tiny part of that dance, well, the whole thing can fall apart. Now, systems have these really cool things called feedback loops that keep them in check. You've got negative feedback, which is basically like a thermostat. Its job is to keep things stable. So if you get too hot, your body sweats to cool you down. Super simple, right? But then you have positive feedback. And that's a snowball rolling downhill. Imagine a little bit of melting ice exposes that dark ocean water underneath. That dark water absorbs more heat, which, you guessed it, melts more ice. And it just goes on and on. It's an amplifying force, and it can push a system somewhere it can't come back from.
And that right there, that is what we call a tipping point. It's the literal point of no return. It's that moment when a system gets pushed so far that it just flips. And once it flips, there's often no going back.
And look, this isn't just some abstract theory. Scientists are watching this happen in real time, right now. Could the Amazon rainforest literally turn into a savanna? Are our coral reefs going to bleach into oblivion? Is the permafrost going to thaw and release this massive torrent of greenhouse gases? These are the questions that are keeping scientists up at night.
And if you need a real-world example, just look at the Atlantic cod fishery. For generations, families had fished those waters. It wasn't just a job, it was a whole way of life. But then, starting in the 50s, everything changed. New tech meant bigger ships, bigger nets, and way, way bigger catches. By the 80s, the writing was on the wall. The fish were just disappearing. Scientists warned them, local fishers warned them, but a lot of people just didn't listen. And then in 1992, it happened. The fishery collapsed, the system tipped, and an entire way of life was lost, pretty much forever.
But okay, here's the good news. We can learn from these mistakes. We can design a better future. And that future, it's really built on one single word: sustainability.
So what even is sustainability? It's actually pretty simple when you boil it down. It's about living our lives today in a way that doesn't completely mess things up for future generations, for our kids and grandkids. It's all about finding that critical balance between the now and the not yet.
But listen, sustainability isn't just about hugging trees, right? It's really a puzzle with three essential pieces: a healthy planet, healthy people, and a thriving economy. If you try to build a society and you're missing one of those pieces, the whole thing is eventually going to collapse. You just can't have one without the others. So the big question is, how do we stay within the lines? Well, scientists have actually come up with this amazing framework called the planetary boundaries. You can think of it as the ultimate rule book for planet Earth. It's a list of 9 absolutely critical processes. We're talking things like climate change and fresh water use that we just can't mess with if we want to keep our planet a safe place to live.
Okay, here's another really cool model. It's called donut economics. The goal is to get everyone into the sweet spot, the actual donut. See, the inner ring is our social foundation. Nobody should fall short on basics like food, water, and housing. The outer ring, that's our ecological ceiling, those planetary boundaries we just talked about. So the challenge is simple to say, but hard to do. Meet the needs of every single person, but do it within the means of the planet. It's a tricky game for sure, but it's one we absolutely have to win.
And if we zoom out to the global scale, we've got the UN's Sustainable Development Goals, or the SDGs. This is a list of 17 really ambitious goals to make the world a better place. And we're talking about the big stuff here, like ending poverty and hunger, while also fighting climate change and protecting our oceans. Yeah, it's a huge to-do list, but it's a list we can and should tackle together.
So with all that in mind, how are we actually doing? Well, here's a number that should probably give you pause. 1.7. That's how many Earths we would need if every single person on the planet lived like the average person in the United States. Let that sink in. We are living on borrowed time, and believe me, the bill is coming due. And that brings us to the final piece of this whole puzzle. And honestly, it might be the most important piece of all, because sustainability isn't just about science and resource management. Fundamentally, it's about justice.
Think about this for a second. Imagine a little kid who lives right next to a factory. Every single day, she breathes in the fumes from that place. And every day, she gets a little bit sicker. Meanwhile, somewhere else, someone is benefiting from that factory's profits. That, right there, is environmental injustice, and it is happening all over the world every single day.
You've probably heard this story before, right? A new landfill or a power plant is proposed for a wealthy neighborhood. The residents protest loudly, the classic "not in my backyard," and the project gets moved. But where does it get moved to? All too often, it's to a low-income or minority neighborhood that doesn't have the same political power to fight back. That's the NIMBY phenomenon in a nutshell, and it's a perfect and frankly painful example of how environmental injustice works.
So what on earth can we do about all this? Look, we can't just sit around and wait for the government to fix it. We can't wait for corporations to magically start doing the right thing. We have to take action, and I mean at every single level, starting in our own homes and our own communities, and taking that fight all the way up to the halls of power. And so, here we are, right back where we started, with you. Because at the end of the day, you have the power to help change the world. And it's about so much more than just recycling your cans or turning off the lights. It's about changing the very way you see the world. It's about demanding a better, fairer, more sustainable future for everyone. So I'll leave you with this question. What is the one change you can make that connects your perspective to our planet's future?